On the 31st of December 2022, during the crossover night service, the chariot, Prophet Brian Kagyezi, gave a prophetic word concerning Nigeria's presidential elections.
Now, when it comes to Nigeria, which is one of the pillars of Africa, I know that they're having their elections. And just like the mistake many people do in many nations, when the candidates step up, the nations baptize the one they want. Nigeria, you have baptized the person, but the Lord has rejected him. He will raise another one.
But what does the prophet mean by Nigerians baptizing another person? Well, according to some presidential opinion polls carried out in Nigeria, Peter Obi was reported as the most preferred candidate by a large section of Nigerians and was projected to win the 2023 presidential elections.
We visited a number of polling stations across Lagos on Saturday, and in all of them there was a strong contingent of young people. We spoke to a couple of them who said that they were first-time voters. They decided to come out because they're disproportionately affected by issues like unemployment, by the poor economy, and they wanted a leader that represented their interests a little bit more. And they really thought that Mr. Obi, who they see as somebody who's cautious, who's frugal, who's not so interested in kind of the trappings of power, they really see him as a credible alternative.
On the 25th of February 2023, Nigeria held its presidential elections with at least 18 candidates vying for the top office of the nation.
Before the service, I was here earlier, and I was setting up the place. I was trying to set up the place. I prophesied the name of that man in the way I set up the setup. So, if you're observant, now I know when I say that, now we are going to confuse many. Because some people are going to see circles and they say, now I know what he's talking about.
Just 13 days before the 31st of December, the crossover night of accelerated growth, the chariot Prophet Brian Kagyezi had a conversation with a few leaders sharing prophetic insights of what was to come, and this included the winner of Nigeria's presidential elections.
Today I was with a few people and I was already sharing with them what's going to happen in 2023.
On 20th of December last year, we were in a room with some leaders, and the prophet came from his office and he found us in that room, excited, and he told us of the things that God had showed him concerning the year 2023. And among the many things he told us of the election that was happening in Nigeria. And he told us that there was a person that everyone was thinking would win, and he said that he would not win because the Lord had showed him a person that would win. And actually said his name started with a T, and he went ahead to tell us that his name sounded like Tinubu. And when we researched, actually we found out that there was a presidential candidate in the name of Tinubu.
I remember the PR of the ministry and myself begin to Google the Nigerian elections. When are they happening? The prophet actually knew when the elections were happening. He knew the candidates, and he actually mentioned that people want a certain person, but this is the person that God has chosen. And so he mentions Tinubu. And for Nigeria, that's what he says. Then he moves on to other things. Now, when we get to 31st of December, he gives the message, the prophecy, in more like a parable. But he mentions and a very important thing. He says, the way I have set up the church today for this service of the crossover shows the name of the person who's actually going to win the Nigeria elections. And if you're wise and you're alert, you can be able to see. So now, because for me, I was actually told the name Tinubu, I saw the letter T near where the choir sits, and the other letters were designed very well artistically by the man of God.
I remember the prophet started with Nigeria with the elections. Now, even me, I didn't know that elections were happening in Nigeria. I had no clue of what's happening on the western part of Africa. So he asked us, do you know that Nigeria is having elections? We're like, no, and he's like, you check, they're going to be having presidential elections in February.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, Papa, go there. This is December. We're talking about information giving us for information being given to us in December, things that are going to happen in February 2023, but we're hearing it for the first time in
December 2022.
Yes, December 2022. So he tells us Nigeria is going to be having elections in February, and he said you can check it out on Google, and he said that do you want to know who's going to be the winner?
I'm like,
We're
yes.
like, yes, Papa, yes, Papa.
Definitely.
Yes, Papa, so we need to tell the world
Yeah.
beforehand like this. And he was like, search out for a name. His name, a man, his name is an old man. His name starts with T. It's like there are candidates, there are many candidates, but this one specific guy is T. It starts with a T. It's like Nigerian names are very hard to pronounce. You said it took some time thinking about it.
Yeah.
Then he said it's something like Tinubu.
Yeah. Then he told us search it out. So Pastor Bella quickly searched out, and there he was. Tinubu, and he was the only Tinubu.
We got the list
rest.
of the candidates, and he was the only Tinubu guy.
Yeah, and he was old because he was 69 at that time or 70. I don't remember, but he was really old.
Yeah.
And so he told us, well, Nigeria has baptized someone else, something like that. Like Nigeria
there is another person, yes, that the people
have chosen to be their president, but
this one,
God has rejected the other one, but
God has chosen this one.
God has chosen this one.
So it fascinated us. We were like, hey,
yeah,
like, wow, And he said, you wait for the elections, you will see.
The nation is behind a certain name, and that is not the will of God.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, appears to have won the most amount of votes in these presidential elections. This result comes amidst a lot of controversy surrounding the vote, with the opposition parties saying they've got evidence that the new electronic voting system that was used in Saturday's polls was faulty, that there were issues with some of the machines that were deployed to polling stations around the country, and they've asked the Electoral Commission to do re-election.